Hello and welcome to Audionautic Deep Space Network, episode 144. We are back. It's a new year. It's nice to be back live. Let us know what you've been up to in the chat. Did you get any new gear? I know Curtis got some new gear. I'm getting some new gear. It's not, I guess it's gear. It's a electric drum kit. Like just a cheap one. Because okay. Because at the studio that I'm teaching at, they've got a drum kit in the room I'm at. So I've been playing it, and it was funny. I was like, my hands don't. After years of doing finger drumming, right, on like the SP and stuff, I know what I want to hear with the drum kit, and I'm like, oh, my hands and feet don't want to communicate as well. Like I can get something, I can get a steady beat, but when I want to go like off, and do different things between the different like limbs, it just doesn't work. But anyways, yeah, Kurt's got some new gear. We'll talk about that, but let us know what you got in the chat and how your holidays were. It's great to see you. I do just want to make a quick note. We've got crazy fires going on. Well, it's the next county over, but it's where I'm from in Los Angeles. So first of all, our thoughts go out to everyone and anyone affected by it. But my brother had to evacuate, and he's with my parents now, but they might have to evacuate at some point too or something. So I may be a little off, like looking to see my phone and stuff like that. So just a heads up, or if I have to go, or we've got crazy winds. So if the power drops on my end, you'll know why. Curtis is more than capable of handling it on his own, though. But just wanted to give that quick note. With that, we're going to talk a new drum machine from Sonicware, and then different approaches to Dawless setups that are capable and that we're thinking about in 2025. Because it's funny, we both, without talking, have changed our Dawless setups. You can see Curtis's desk is very vacant and empty right there. But mine is deceptive. It looks like there's stuff still there, but it's all unplugged because we're both just without discussing it. We both were like, "Yep, it's time to rebuild the Dawless setup." So, if anyone else is looking into building a Dawless setup or rebuilding, first of all, this episode's for you. But let us know what you're considering and all that. But I think I've talked enough. My name's Sunwarper. With me today is Curtis. I almost said Eon Lake. It's because I'm programmed to always do Eon Lake first, but he's unfortunately sick. But Curtis, what's going on?
Doing well, yeah. Into the swing of things, back into work after the break, back at it, doing January. That's a lot of fun. What are we on today? It's the 8th. So yeah, we're doing 8 days of January.
Yeah, I saw that. I've been seeing all those posts you've been doing. I'm like, man, that's a lot of work. Every day. Did you batch record, or are you doing it every day? Or do you? I mean, you don't have to admit. I don't want you to say like I'm cheating.
It's not. Well, that's the thing. I don't think.
No.
As long as you put it out, I think, as long as you put it out, it's good. I think I have. I've matched. I've done. I think I did the first 12 days or so over one weekend, and then I've been just to get ahead of the game. And now I'm just like, when the time comes, I'll do a jam and I'll do it and I'll put it through and stuff like that. And it's a lot of fun. Even got the GoPro back out again.
Nice. I've been waiting for that moment.
Yeah. So it's cool. It is. It came at the right time. I think, I try and do January every other year. I can't do it. It's too much to do it every year, but it's a good exercise in content creation, in doing the workflow of like setting up cameras, setting up angles, doing white balance and focuses and stuff like that. And then just doing that over and over, like syncing audio and visual, putting it into Premiere Pro, editing it, color grading it, etc. Doing that over and over and over. It's good to, especially as I haven't done much content creation in 2024 and I kind of stepped away from it. It's been good to blow off the cobwebs and the dust and stuff like that. And I get to just sit and, as you introed, I've got a new setup, which is sitting over there. It's good to kind of like break it out, learn where it is. I got the S1 over the Christmas period. Nice, so I'm just kind of working out where that lives and how that sits and what that does,
Yeah. And how are you finding the S1?
It's a cool little box. It does live up to the hype. I think it does live up to the hype. Like all the area series, the boxes have been, as far as I can see, universally accepted and adored. And I'm always suspicious when you see lots of like marketing towards how good something is, but there is a powerful little box. There's a lot in there. Even I currently have the Ultranova going into it as a MIDI controller.
Nice, yeah.
and just having the sound, just having this beautiful analog little sounding synth in a tiny little box without even going into sequencing it and using the 64-step sequencer, it's really fun. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah, I like the S1 from what I've seen. I think isn't it based or has some similarities to the SH101, the like Roland Classic, like the red guy that I've got. I think it's one of the, and it's like built off of the sounds of the SH101, and then it does a whole lot more. And I think it's got polyphony too, which the 101 did not. Yeah, 4-voice. Yeah, the 101 was a monophonic, like this guy is, which is the Behringer clone of it. Yeah, nice little synth.
It's a nice little box, and it's packs a lot for such a small box. Like you got the P6, right, and that is a powerful little sampler in there, and it does blow the Volca, in my humble opinion. It blows the Volca range completely out the water. It's around about the similar price.
It seems like a lot of these, is it Ira, those just blow. It's like the Korgs are a older form of this like portable thing, and then these are like more of like the next gen of it, where it's squeezing it. Like this thing, I mean, I know that this is the P6, but the sample time is limited. You get the sample rates and stuff, but you get 48 sample pads, which is, and they all can do like at the lower sample rates and mono, I think they can each do 22 seconds. But not only that, you can do polyphonic steps on every single pad, because you can do like, let's say you do a drum loop, you can chop that drum loop into these tiny pads, but it's all just being held on one of the main pads. And then you can do polyphony. So you can do all your drums on one single actual pad. So even though it's 48, there's like some workarounds and stuff. But I wanted to mention, if you do get the P6, the S1 and the P6, I've been told in my live streams, the S1 MIDI syncs to the granular engine, and all the settings of the granular engine, I guess, are on, like you can manipulate them with the S1. So like instead of having to go through every single 4-character menu on here to do the granular engine, you can make changes on the S1.
That's cool. All right, I'll keep my eye out for that. It is. I think you hit the nail on the head. I mean, if Volca started the trend of these tiny little boxes, Aria are kind of coming out with, or Roland Aria are kind of coming out with, this is what you can now do in 2025. They do pack a lot of punch. They're not overly expensive, and it's sitting on a guitar pedal board essentially, and you know, that can just be zipped up and put in a bag and carried anywhere, which is, it's quite a cool little thing to do.
It's pretty sick. Yeah, I can imagine a few of them you'd unlock like some crazy portable power, especially with the P6. It's like a hub with all the sampling.
Well, Castle from formerly Atlas Castle, he's got the Juno chord one. I can't remember the name, J something. And then
J6 or J, I don't know.
I want to say that's the drums though.
It's like wrong. They have too many that are just like a number and the 6. Like, stop! I'm too confused. And the Juno, 106, whatever. Yeah,
exactly. But he's got a couple of them coming through. He's got that and the S1, and as well as the Digitac and the T1, and which is the sequencer from, can't remember their name now. And it all fits in a backpack, and it looks really good. It looks really portable. So it's exciting times for those who want to take their gear on the road.
Yeah, definitely.
Definitely. So yeah, that's where we're at. Where are you at? I mean, I saw you yesterday.
Yeah, well, I've been doing, so I'm on a bit of a time crunch, because I promised the label, i.e. you and I, that I'd have a release February 17th, and now I'm in talks with Lars about doing maybe a short run of cassettes. But all this at the same time of none of the tracks are done, because they're jams from the year, right, that I did on my videos. And now I'm like, I got to finish them. So I came to the idea that I'm going to do about 4 to 5, like side A. Speaking of, Lars is now driving in the green room. I see him. He's not driving the green room, but he's driving, and his phone's there. And I could just see the top of his head.
See the top of his head.
And his fries. He's got fries. So he's chowing down. I want to be eating, man. But anyways, I think side A is going to be like polished, where I take these songs into the DAW and either stem split them, which is this new workflow I'm doing that's a ton of fun. I stem split it, and then add additional tracks and stuff and mix and do side chaining and stuff. But then the other side is going to preserve the jams as they were, like 4 other jams or 5 other jams, but like just as they were as Dawless jams. So it's kind of both. Like as we're talking about these Dawless setups and stuff, like I'm working to create a hybrid setup. And this is kind of like testing the waters with figuring out like, okay, I can stem split these 2 tracks that the Dawless setup does, which I'm hoping to bypass soon, but then I can add more. And that Logic stem splitter, very little artifacting. And I'm not doing it in a way where I need to remove parts, right? So you don't really even hear the artifacting because it's all still being played. I just need to get some additional mixing, and like the SP and the P6, no sidechain. So in this way, I can get that sidechain because I can separate the bass and the drums, and then I can kind of do some sidechaining and stuff. So that's been a lot of fun. I just have to kind of finish it. But I like just adding a couple little embellished MIDI parts, like in the song I did where I flipped your guitar, like I added some synth arpeggios using that SEM from Cherry Audio, that free synth we covered last year. I love that. It's a free monophonic synth, but I just have it doing arpeggios underneath and like bring up the filter, bring it down, and then I add transition sounds, which isn't always the easiest to do when you're in the Dawless setup. So it's a nice kind of like have your cake and eat it too setup. But yeah, as we talk when we get in the Dawless thing, I might not need to do that much anymore. But real quick, before we move to the next topic, I want to say hello to our chat. Is it Balrog Soft? Balrog Soft is in the chat. Says, today's topic interests me. That's my way of working, mainly with my Novation SL Mark III to control all of my synthesizers. Yeah, so we're going to talk different ways we're doing it. There's basically, we're going 2 very different routes, and then there's the more simple route that we'll talk about as well. We're going to talk 3 different ways to do it. But Balrog, if you want to let us know kind of how you're routing, what synths you're using and stuff like that, we'll talk about it when we get to that segment. And then Abby, one of our patrons, is in the chat. And then, as I mentioned, what's going on, Abby? Welcome. Hope you had an incredible holidays, and it's good to see you in the new year. Lars is in the green room. I think he's busy dealing with road rage. So unless he gives me the thumbs up and you want to just see the top of his car, we'll wait till he's situated to get it. But yeah, at the moment he's putting fingers up, so maybe he's saying like 10 minutes he'll be back home. But we'll get him in when he's situated. But I just see him like emphatically moving, looking around. It's a little distracting.
Look for a place to settle down.
But Curtis, where do you want to start? We've been talking Dawless. It might be nice to start there, but if you want to start with the Sonicware, we can start there. So where do you want to start?
In the name of, well, the question is, I suppose, what would Lars more appreciate? Because whichever one he would be more to say. I think
Lars is going to want to talk the setups because he's got all those things he's been finding at like thrift stores and stuff like that. So maybe we save that till he's situated.
Yeah, let's do Sonicware. Let's do that. Let's talk about
as situated as Lars can get. Let's put it there. I'm just kidding, Lars.
Let's start with the Sonicware box then, because this piqued our interest yesterday, and we've been debating back and forth about what to call it, where it comes from, that kind of situation. But it released, I think, early December. It's already sold out, and they're now taking orders for February. But this is it. This is the Cydrum, which is we've rationalized it as being a combination of cymbal, because obviously drums and cymbals, but then also the Psy being a bit psychedelic. We'll go through the sound demo in a little bit, and so you can hear, because this is trippy in the best of ways. It's trippy as hell. But they're calling it a neo-hyperactive drum machine, which is a really interesting way of looking at it. And it is. It's really hyperactive. It is incredibly intense. It's an 8-track, 128-step sequencer.
I like that.
Built off. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And which is based off of that engine from the Lo-Fi 12. Another box which we covered last year.
That thing looks awesome. By 12.
Yeah, it does. And I think they're in a good. The Sonicware are in a good space. Like, they're not too expensive. They're relatively new. They're relatively small, so they've still got that personal effect. So yeah, I like this. It's so they're calling it a 4D drum sound evolution, where it does. You can actually affect the drums in real time by pushing buttons and moving dials, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So in that sense, it's very much a live instrument. There's 22 custom build sound structures. There's effects, reverb, master effects, and different forms of routing. Like I said, it's 8-track, and it has generative patterns with randomization and probability, and things like time delay, vary speed, where you can change the tempo and the textures and the sounds in real time again as you're putting it through. There's a lot going on. Essentially, there's a lot going on in short.
Yeah, I mean, it looks sick. It looks promising. I want to mention too, I've been seeing, a lot, because at the end of the year and at the start, we on Audionautic, but also on my channel and on my socials, I was asking, as I kind of start rebuilding my setup, what everyone's doing with their setups. And I was not shocked, but I was really intrigued that a lot of people were mentioning some sort of Sonicware device in their setups. Because they have like that ambient one that I think Eon Lake got. Another person on Threads mentioned it, and some were mentioning the Lo-Fi 12 and I think there's a Lo-Fi 6 too or whatever. I mean, Sonicware is a really cool company. They got great pieces of gear, and like you said, they are in good price points, which I really like for what they do. So yeah, it's cool to see. And then they have that really interesting form factor, like this one. It looks kind of like a advanced Game Boy, not Game Boy Advance, but like a highly advanced like OG Game Boy, like that gray one or whatever, mixed with the calculator, but doing awesome drum stuff. So we should hear how it sounds. Let's check out what it's doing.
Yeah, so if I share this tab,
and real quick, let me just say hello to one of our patrons. Shady Ridge Records is there. Says, hey everyone, happy new year. Happy new year. Shady, welcome back. It's good to see you. Hope you've been well. Are you planning any changes to your setup or your KST workflow with Hydro Fighter? Let us know.
So yeah, this is it. We'll play a bit. It's only a short video, but we'll play a little bit. It does get intense. Just fair warning.
Nice. Right. Oh, the step recording, that's sick.
It seems very easy to put these things
This
in.
reminds me a lot of like a workflow of the Digitac, even with that yellow-black screen.
Yeah.
With the step sequencing and all that type of stuff. That's sick. All right, we'll stop it there. But can you put the link in the chat for anybody that wants to check out that video? That does look really cool. So we were talking the pronunciation. So it is Cydrum, like psychedelic or cyberpunk. What's your thinking in the name? What's your, because we were discussing like, well, maybe it's because of psychedelic or cyberpunk, but do you have any thoughts there?
I think it is very psychedelic in that sense. And I mean, those sounds speak very close to my heart when it comes to the amount of times I've been to a sci festival. They're crunchy, they're gnarly, they're obtuse, they're aggressive, and that's that. You're not going to be making lo-fi, and you're not going to be making boom bap on that. I think it's very much in the corner.
In any of that demo, was there's like more traditional sounding drums, or is it very much that kind of like FM or like synthetic-y, very distorted?
Very much so.
Okay, yeah, because Cresshead, where is it? Cresshead said not a fan of its sound at all. So yeah, it seems like it's an acquired taste, but if you do that type of music, or even like making loops that you want to chop up, I could see some purpose there for like background percussion and stuff. Cresshead says C64 sound. Is that Commodore 64? Like the old computers? Yeah. Balrog Soft says, I wonder if this new Sonicware device is for old school hyperactive musicians like me. I'm too old for those small screens. Yeah, I don't know. It does seem like the screens on the I mean, it is a tinier form factor, but it does look very, very old school in that aesthetic with that. But sound is cool. So yeah, I could see what you mean. Very in that like psychedelic. Yeah, and to Cresshead saying the Commodore 64, like maybe that what's the 8-bit chip tune, like the chip tune type of stuff and things like that,
And I think that's a good. I do think it's a very good thing. I think that over the last year, I noticed that we were kind of seeing that marvelization of sounds in a way, where everything was going, or at least things were being tailored to a certain type of aesthetic and a certain type of sound. And it's nice to see something that is completely, I was going to think of something else, but I've got to remember not to swear. It's completely out there, completely different, completely crazy in that sense. And even if you're the live aspect of it as well, as you can see, like pushing the buttons and turning the dials and affecting the sound.
Recording.
Yeah, exactly. All at the same time while you're like, it's very much built. It looks like it's very much built for a live production in that sense, and that's really cool and that's really fun to see.
Yeah, definitely. I think that's something I'm hoping we see more of, and we're starting to, because last year we talked kind of the woes of these hardware releases. A lot of them seem to be either trying to recreate classics or just doing, like, oh, it's a 8-voice polyphonic analog synth that's like $4,000, but it sounds great, but it's not doing anything new. And then we have things like this and stuff like that. And we'll talk about it soon, but I actually got my hands on the Poly-N synth, which is doing something pretty different too, with having that 3 synths in one, doing this grid with lots of cool sound design and stuff like that. So if for nothing else, I hope there are markets for these, because it's nice to see newish types of innovative things coming out. Real quick, want to say hello to another patron. Mike says hello. Sorry I'm late. It's okay. I know you were playing the what is it, Ableton Move. That's all right. That takes precedence. New gear is awesome. But yeah, everybody, let us know what you got over. If you got any new gear for the holidays, let us know. Cresshead says it's cool. Where'd it go? Sorry, lots of chats coming in. It's cool, but not for me. I totally get that. I totally get that for sure. Because yeah, but I think it's cool that there are things for different people, right? Like what intrigues us. It's nice to see this kind of diversity in products and stuff like that, instead of just everything being this type and that. So it's cool to see. I hope we see more different things like that.
Very much so. I'd love to get my hands on it and play around with it and see what happens.
I really want that Lo-Fi 12. That's what I would like. I mean, you know me, I'm a sampler person. This looks cool, but I think the Lo-Fi 12 is more my or what's that other one? The other like sampler thing they have, or synth one. Oh, what's it called? There's that other Sonicware. Hold on, now it's gonna bug me.
While you're doing that, I'll make a direct plea or a conversation with Sonicware. If you're watching, we love what you do. We'd love to
sample track
and play around with it. Sample track,
yeah, that's what it's called. Yeah, that looks really cool. It kind of reminded me of like an advanced circuit tracks, which is getting retired in my workflow at the moment. But I think for me, the Lo-Fi 12 XT is the one that really looks cool. And then there's the what's that ambient one? The ambient, yeah. Live and ambient. That one looks pretty cool too, for like a sampler machine. Like get a bunch of things you can sample, create soundscapes, and then chop them up, and you got these cool like chromatic mode synths and stuff like that. There's some really cool stuff that they're making. So yeah, it's nice to see. Balrogsoft says the C64 has a SID chip, which was a true analog synthesizer of 3 voices. It's the music of my childhood. I love it. Yeah, I've been watching a lot of like retro. That was a bit before me, but I've been watching, like, I love watching retro game YouTube channels and stuff. And I was watching things on like the Ultima series and all that. And it was cool to see like them talking about how music advanced in these earlier computers and stuff. And then they started getting those chips that could do music. And then there was that Roland MT30 or whatever that was like crazy, and then the FM stuff that was coming out. It's really cool to see kind of the history of like synthesizers and computers and all that. So yeah, just interesting. So you reminded me about that. But yeah, Curtis, anything else you want to say about this?
Only that it's going to be up for a crazy year, and I think that's a really good crazy box to bring it out. I want to see more left field stuff. I want to see more stuff that breaks the boundaries of what we've currently seen. I love the look of it.
Yeah, it looks sick. It looks sick. I'm stoked to see what else Sonicware puts out this year. Yeah, very much. Cresshead said it. Roland MT32. That's the one. They say they had one. That's awesome. Yeah, I was just watching stuff on that. I think it was I forgot who the Ultima one was that was talking about it, but then I think LGR has done some stuff about the MT32, or maybe it was Modern Vintage Gamer, somebody, but I was watching stuff on all that, and I was like, this sounds so cool. It'd be cool to check it out. While you were talking, though, this whole time Lars has been in the house in the green room, one of our patrons, and he's been moving around, and he got that new iPad that does the follow.
Yeah.
So it was like this cinematic thing of him cleaning stuff, just like zooming in on him, pushing back. But Lars, are you good to come in? Okay,
yeah.
thumbs up. So let me just quickly say this show is brought to you by our patrons who help support the show, keep the lights on, and at certain tiers you are able to come onto the show. I believe it's the $5 and above. So if you want to express your own opinions about stuff we're talking about and all that stuff, come on the show, hang out with us. Check out patreon.com/audionautic. There's a lot of other perks at different tiers. So if you do want to help support the show, keep us going. We are sponsor free. There's no ads, no sponsors. It's patrons that support us. So patreon.com/audionautic. But with that, let's bring in Lars. What's going on, my man?
Hey guys, how's it going?
There goes it zooming in. All that cinematic zoom. I wonder if that's like a option you can shut off, because my iPad does that too. And when I'm FaceTiming, it does this like, and I'm like, oh my God, just stop. I don't need cinematic zoom while FaceTiming.
I think you can turn it off, but I'm not sure exactly how. I've been using my iPad for all kinds of other fun stuff. So, you know.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. It's all good.
So how was your holiday?
We're going to say the same thing to you. How was your winter period, man? What have you been doing?
My winter period? Oh, man.
that's a teacher right there. Well, right there. Wait, yeah. Winter period.
No, it was pretty good. You know, we didn't really travel this year. We were thinking about it, but we ended up not being able to. But, you know, I got some cool stuff, nothing music related, and nothing I can really show on a live stream. But it's cool stuff, I promise.
All right, nice.
Epic haul.
That's cool. Yeah, I was saying how we're talking about maybe doing some cassettes in February. So yeah, we're planning that. Is that one of your puppers? One of the dogs?
Yeah, come here, Sasha. Come here. Or don't come here. Yeah, all right. Yeah, this is the dog this is the one that you guys like. Oh,
yes.
Yay. Wonderful.
Hi.
Say hi, dog. Okay, yeah. This dog just wants attention and pets and a lap.
Nice. Well, they've come to the right place, a live stream, so.
Exactly, right?
Yeah. That's cool, man. Well, it's good to see you.
Good to see you guys, too. Like I
said,
just
Chris said in the chat, says you mean Christmas winter period. We are international. Different there's different ways to say things, but yeah.
He said winter period is like, oh my God, am I finally a woman now?
Good to see you, Lars.
Mm-hmm. He's back on it. Never a dull day when Lars is on the stream. There's Error Prone Records. You've got something coming out with Semiotic Ghost, right? Did I see that?
Yes, it's actually up for pre-order right now, and I sent Bendu like his share of the tapes too, so they can sell them at like shows and whatnot. So
nice.
Yeah, I got that one. That'll be out like all the way out on the 14th, and then in March I have another release lined up, not mine, and then actually again in like late April or May I have another one lined up after that. So
nice.
I'm trying to do one like every like 1.5 to 2 months, because I have other stuff going on and I don't want to be like, oh crap, I have to push this back, or I can't do this or whatever, so
yeah. I hear you. We did a release a month last year, and it was a lot. It was a lot, and that's with 2 people doing like splitting stuff up and stuff like that. So yeah,
I'm just one man with like kids and a job and all of that fun stuff.
I get it, man. I get it. All right, well, we should probably move over to our gear talk, because we're talking our setups, right? And so Lars, I know you're a machina person, but you've been doing the like little, I get a lot of the stuff you're getting at like thrift stores and stuff, right? Those little pieces of gear and stuff, right? But you've been building this kind of little setup.
Yeah. So I was planning on putting more effort into that. So the big one that I'm trying to get to work is I got this thing called the Korg SQD1, I think it's called, but it's basically just like an old school like sequencer, basically. And I've been having to work on it in different ways, but the main thing was I had to change out the drive because it had something called a quick disk drive in it. And I don't know if you've ever heard of that. It's like you can't find media for quick disk anymore. Like it's pretty much a completely dead format. So I had to find a
Is it this, by the way, real quick?
Yes, that thing right there. It is. It's hilarious. It is like the epitome of the 80s. I love the thing.
It looks it.
Yeah.
The black and the turquoise.
Yes. So I'm trying to figure out ways to like integrate it into the computer and everything. So the main thing is I have to find I got like a MIDI, a USB like MIDI card basically for my computer. So I'm trying to figure out how to get MIDI to send into it, record it, and send it back out to like other analog gear. And so I really love the challenge of all of it, but it's like I totally understand why like older musicians who messed with electronic stuff back in the day are like, you kids have it so easy today. It's like, yeah, we do. This is a headache, man. I just have spaghetti like cables everywhere.
You don't want to see back here, man. And this is like not even built. This is my like figuring it out. But I found some ties and stuff. So when I start rebuilding it, as we'll talk about, I'm gonna try to tie it back. But as you can see, the Prophet's finally back in here. So yeah, I'll talk about that soon. But let's figure out how we want to approach this. So there's a couple different setups we're talking about. So there's a crazy convoluted setup. That's probably unnecessary, but really awesome if it works. And then there's the normal Dawless setup, and then there's kind of something in between. So where do we want to start? Curtis, I'm counting yours as the normal Dawless setup. Does that count?
That's the thing. Mine is Dawless, but it's kind of hybrid. They still use
true. But I mean, you're using it as like a loop station. Okay, so there's the loop station where you're just doing loops. Then there's the MIDI, and then there's this crazy convoluted one that I'm envisioning. So where do we want to start?
Crazy convoluted.
Let's start at the crazy convoluted. Real quick, Cresshead in the chat said Roland had a similar thing, the MC500. Curtis, you mind just Googling that, and then we can look into it? Because that's, isn't it? I don't know. But anyways, okay, so here's my original setup, and this is basically what we could talk about when we talk just doing a Dawless setup where you're controlling things with MIDI. Was you have a sequencer, or in my case, it's a sampler and a sequencer, the Digitact, and I'm sending, this is my brain for the whole setup, right? Or was, and I would send MIDI with this, I don't know if it's going to show through, but this MIDI through box. So one MIDI cable goes from MIDI out into this, and then those all go into different synths. So all the different synths that I have, let me actually full screen while I talk about that. So all the different synths that I have get sent MIDI just from the Digitact. The Digitact has 8 MIDI channels, and you can set each one to different channels. So like the SP404, the way this one works, when you send MIDI in, you can do it in a way where every bank is a MIDI channel. And so that's really awesome, but you also have to be careful that you're not running that same MIDI channel to another synth, because then whatever information you send from the Digitact is going to go to both of them, and it's going to be chaotic. So you want to think that. But then beyond that, what I used to do was I would send just MIDI clock to the circuit tracks, and I had the circuit tracks also controlling the MIDI of 2 synths, so that I could do a sort of live loop where I could play a MIDI part on here and record it on the circuit, and it would play on that synth, and then I could mute it on the Digitact or on the circuit tracks. So I'd have all these different controls and things like that. So it worked. It was a lot of fun, but I had a kid at the start of, right before 2024. And so basically what I found myself doing was taking parts of this setup and just using that, right? Like just a sampler or just the Digitact and a synth. And then it was that. So I didn't like it. And Mike's saying this all sounds quite complicated. I mean, it's just like making a massive preset patch of things in Ableton like Curtis does. It's you pick your poison. Let's put it that way. I like having this because it's all tactile and it's all, I can move things and I can go to different synths and control it. It's not for everybody, but it was a lot of fun. But what I want to do now is bridge the gap of the DAW and the hardware. And so Digitact has Overbridge, which lets you send every sample channel of the Digitact as a separate channel into the DAW, and then all the audio coming into the Digitact is also another channel. And so my goal here is to reset up the Dawless setup, but I'll talk why I'm retiring the circuit in a second. Reset up the Dawless setup, send everything into the Digitact, but everything's going to go first into my mixer, which has that pedal board. So I have an aux channel with pedals, so I have like live effects and things like that. So I can record things and sample them in the Digitact, chop them up, do all that, but then everything will come as separate channels into the DAW. And then I want to have the SP as the audio interface, the out. So everything from the DAW can go into my SP. So I can do effects, I can sample into it. Basically what I want to do is have the SP separate from the Dawless setup. And anything I make where I make loops, I can easily turn into stems that I can do live performances with the SP. So the SP is like my separate piece of gear that's going to receive everything. So instead of having to like try and stem split to get parts and stuff, I have it all in the DAW, and then I can just send each loop and then pattern sequence on the SP, and it's all good. So yeah, that's my crazy convoluted thing. It's not as crazy maybe as it sounds. Basically everything goes into the Digitact. We have overbridge, which goes into the DAW, so I get multiple channels. And then if I want to do live performances for, you know, like the videos on YouTube or for performing out and about, I can put it into the SP as stems, but not stem splitted ones with artifacts and stuff like that. So it should be cool. Is it necessary? Completely not. Will it be fun? Maybe. Is it chaos? Probably. But what I'm looking forward to with this poly and synth is I can send MIDI to one synth and then perform live with the other two. So that's why I'm getting rid of the circuit, because I don't really want that live looping. I want to actually do more performative stuff, because then when I play live shows and stuff, I can play those parts still on this poly and synth, but everything else is just samples on the SP, so I can still control them. But yeah, so it basically is to compartmentalize the performances for easier live performance.
That makes a lot of sense. And I've mentioned it the other day when we talked this through. It's like this notion of a convoluted, maybe unnecessary, and in that process, more it's like uncovering rocks, right? It's like as you kind of delve in, as you kind of link up more MIDI and get things to speak to each other, that unlocks new ideas that were previously unthought about, right? So like it might be unnecessary. And it might be overly complicated, to borrow Mike's phrase, but you in the process you'll learn so much.
Well, not only that, but sure, the routing is going to be complicated, but really it boils down to I can control a bunch of synths with the Digitact, and then there's separate audio channels, or most are going to be separate audio channels in my computer, and then I can put those as stems into my SP for performance. That's what it boils down to. So it makes it. Yeah, exactly. And then I can take parts away and do things. And if I want to just perform with the SP, I still have the stuff I've done. It's just a nice way to kind of have that more control over the mix, which is the nice part of a DAW, but have that tactile fun. Because like Mike puts fun in quotes. I don't like sitting at DAW and doing a bunch of programming or, you know, that. I'd rather do generative stuff with hardware that I can control different things and stuff like that. And so I just don't like being by a screen. So this is a way to just like, I can do all that there. And then whenever I need the screen or do all the mixing, because I still mix in the DAW, I have more control over that stuff. So yeah.
You like the meme?
What?
You don't want to be like the meme where it says, "Oh, you're a musician. What instrument do you play?" And you just hold up a wireless mouse.
Yeah, I suppose. Yeah. Real quick, Cresshead says my main rig is KO2 and KO33 in McDonald's each day. That's the pocket operator is awesome, and I mean, from everything I've seen of the KO2, and I got to play it at NAMM last year, it is really an awesome little piece of gear. But I love that pocket operator, the sampler, the PO33. It's awesome. That 8-bit sound it gets, because it's so crunchy. Like I love sampling through it and doing all that. Let's see. Balrogsoft says it is interesting to use the Digitact as a brain. I want to try the POKO2 for something similar. In theory, it can control 16 channels without the limits of the KO2 polyphony. Interesting. So I'm not sure about that stuff. But yeah. Presshead says, but that is a very interesting setup. What's the rest of your setup looking like? Crescent says SP44 is great as a phrase or stem player. Yeah, I mean, I love making tracks on the SP because it just makes sense for my brain. But I also really like chopping sounds with the crazy what do they call it? But the slice mode and warp on Digitact. So it's like I can kind of do it all. I can make these loops, send it into the Digitact, do that, and then I can have basically patterns I can create on the SP with like the stems from the DAW. So it's not necessary, like I said, but for what I want to do, it's perfect because I can have this complicated rig and then it can just go into the SP and I can just take the SP off, unplug its USB, and then I've got everything I've done, and I can do synths on top. I can use the Polyend synth to jam on top of it, guitar, whatever. So it's like it's just a way for me to get more control before I send things into the SP.
Yeah,
it's like a replication in that sense.
Yeah.
So would you say that your setup is like Dawless or more like kind of a hybrid setup?
So it depends. It's really hybrid, right? But this is Dawless. So I can if I go, I want to work Dawless today or just do, gear, I can do everything because the Digitact is a sampler and a very powerful one. I've made whole songs just with the Digitact. So it's like I can just make stuff, sample sounds into the Digitact, slice it up, do all that, and that's done. But if I wanted to have the stems of it, that's where the overbridge output or routing makes sense because now I have the individual channels. And then when I need it to go to the SP, it's there and I can make the like more elaborate stems of everything.
Okay.
It's Dawless, it's primary Dawless, and then it's
Dawless with a little like
you have the flexibility of then putting it into the DAW and processing it after, which is kind of, if you think of, I mean, it's essentially in that sense, the DAW is just a glorified tracker in that sense. So like,
and arranger, like I can arrange it, like I can record that what I've done either as just a straight 4 or 8 bar loop, or I could record the whole process and then find little parts I like and make whole new things in the DAW. So that it gives me all this flexibility of, well, when I need to be on the screen and changing things and stuff, I've got it, but I can just do stuff here as well.
Okay.
It's good. It's a cool little system. It's primarily getting away from the screen, but you have that flexibility to polish your tracks that you feel need to be polished. Not every track does, but it's good to have it when the time comes.
Yeah. Real quick, I just want to run through the chat. Mike says, of course, if we all did it the same way, it would be dull. Definitely. Creshead says, 12 notes polyphony on the KO2. That's awesome. Tempted to add a Seek track as MIDI. Is that the Yamaha? The Seek track? I think that's the Yamaha D module driven from KO2. That's awesome. And Bendu's in the chat. Bendu, hope you're doing well. I know you're in LA, so hope everything's all right. But Happy New Year to you as well. Welcome. Great to see you. So any clarifications on my setup that we need to go through before we move on?
I just have one suggestion.
Yes, go ahead, Lars.
You got to go truly old school. Find yourself a Tascam 4-track recorder and just
I have one.
Everything.
I have one. It's in my son. He's sleeping right now, but it's in my son's room. I told you I have one. I have a cassette recorder. I just never use it. What I originally wanted to do was have that as the end and just record sounds into the tape loop. But I really want to have, because as I'm doing this process for the cassette thing we're working on, I'm sending my songs that if I didn't have overbridge, I have to stem split them to mix a little more to get like sidechain, and then I want to add MIDI and stuff on top. So I wonder if bypassing the stem split, I could just have done it this way. And have these individual channels that would give a little more control of that, and then not need to do the stem splitting. I like the stem splitting. So if you are doing a traditional Dawless setup, like what I had when I described that first setup I did, that totally works. Like Logic has really good stem splitting. MPC, the software, has good stem splitting. I think FL Studio has really good stem splitting as well, right? Curtis, didn't we do a shootout with that? And then RipX has really, really good stem splitting, with a lot more, I guess, apparently, than 4 stems that it makes. But that is a viable option that I've been doing, where you just take these jams you've done, if you know the BPM, set the BPM in the DAW, stem split it, and now you can chop parts up. You can add more MIDI, transition effects, all that type of stuff. So going back to, if you are doing traditional Dawless, if you need more mixing stuff, or like if you have the SP and can't sidechain, there's your way to do it.
So I did get to finally try out Machine 3, and
Oh, yeah.
it's disappointing.
Oh,
Really?
bummer.
Yes.
Why?
So disappointing.
Why? Yeah.
So they did add stem splitting, right? Which I thought was like, ooh, super cool. It doesn't work half the time. Like it
Really?
just doesn't work. Like I've tried it probably about like 8 to 10 times now, and every single time, like, because it kind of runs like as a background process. Like you load in your sample, and then you like hit like the stems button, and the first time it hung at 29%, and I let it sit there for like 30 minutes, and it didn't do anything.
That's
Then the next time,
buggy.
like somewhere in the 30s, but it kept hanging. Like it just won't finish the actual stem split. And then the other thing that really disappointed me is they still have not given us internal MIDI routing.
Really?
So for some of my plugins, like I have a Sugar Bytes Thesis, which is like, it's basically a MIDI generator. You're supposed to be able to put it on a channel, generate MIDI sequences with it, and send it to another channel. So I can use it in Reaper. Reaper is fine, but Machine still doesn't allow you to send MIDI signal from one like pattern or one group channel, whatever, to another one inside of the software. And I don't understand why.
That does seem like a bit of an oversight in that sense.
Yeah, and now they're on version 3 and it's still an oversight somehow. So I'm real disappointed in my German friends. And you know, nobody's ever had to be disappointed in their German friends before.
Have you written a strongly worded letter, Lars?
I have not yet. I did complain on the subreddit and the forum, but I don't think they're listening to me, you know? Again, it's not like the Germans to just not listen, right?
No, not at all. Not at all. That is woeful. That is woeful.
But yeah.
Well, okay. It's and that's a big update as well. It's not like that's not just like a partial update or anything like that. That's a big kind of like
that's like the next version. And you know, it's
here we
not
are kind of situation.
Yeah, their pricing isn't like bad because you know, whenever they go to like the next whole version, like you have to pay like your upgrade fee or whatever. But I think like from 1 to 2, it cost me $50. And then I think this time it cost me $50 again, but I can't remember exactly. And you know, I don't mind that. It's just also like, if you're gonna have me pay for the update, like I need you guys to give me more features than just, you know, an updated UI and a stem split that doesn't seem to work very well.
That's interesting about the stem split.
It is. Yeah. I mean, if their big thing, I mean, stem splitting is pretty big right now.
Yes.
And to bring something out that is, I mean, okay, like video game companies quite often drop games which are buggy and unfinished. It hopefully
nowadays,
yeah. So it could be something that they weren't accounting for. Perhaps they missed it in testing. Maybe it's something that will come by. Thinking positively, thinking positively.
Think positive. Hey, positive isn't always good. Like, you know, I went to go get a COVID test a while back and
you're on a roll today there, Lars. Jeez. Now you just got us hit with that
just getting us demonetized.
What's it called thing where it's going to talk about this speaks about the pandemic stuff or whatever. They still do that, I think.
They're still doing that?
Yeah. We're going to be on Joe Rogan.
It's going to take you out of this, put you back, banish you to the green room from whence you came. Anyways, let's stop having Lars speak for a minute and let's go to Curtis. I'm just kidding, Lars. Let's go to Curtis and talk looping.
Okay.
All right. I'll tell you what. I'll turn my camera around so you can have a look at what we're looking at.
Yeah, let's do it.
So let's do this.
And Lars, I'm just joking. It's all good, but it's just funny.
Oh my gosh. Look at that spaghetti. I love it. I love it.
Look at that. That is a whole other level of there's no way I'm cleaning that up. That's just going to live there. So like, as you can see, it's basically a standard setup. Right? Everything is going into that mixer that you see. We've got the Ultranova, which is here. You've got the push to, the monologue, the vocal sample, the S1, the SP404, and then you've got 3FX as your 3FX as aux sends, basically, to try and create the mix in their own way.
Yeah, what pedals do you have in there?
I've got digital reverb, digital delay, and a phaser.
Is that a DD3, DD5, or DD7?
It's a DD. That is a DD3. It's a DD3.
Yeah, okay. The DD3, I had that, so my bassist took it and never gave it back, and it's heartbreaking. That was one of my first pedals, but that has that really cool latch or freeze where if you put it to the furthest delay setting and you press it, it just like latches like a 1 second. You know, you can get like a chord. It just goes like boom, 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 and then you can change the feedback and get really cool sounds from it.
Wait, did you say a bassist took it?
Yeah.
Of course it would be a bassist.
Don't start with this, Lars. Don't start with it. We just got past all this.
Bring it right back round. This is a hybrid setup because one more thing I've got at the top here is the TD3 that you see there.
Oh, you have one too?
I got a TD3, yeah, beautiful.
Is that
right now
Behringer?
It's a Behringer. It's a Behringer make of it's a Behringer remake of the 303 essentially. And what I'm doing is I am controlling it through the push 2. I'm sending MIDI into Ableton from the push 2, and it's sending it back out to the TD3, so I can make sequences and loops in Ableton, sequencing it there, and then playing. Not only can you play it as a traditional sequencer, but in a kind of like carbon-based life form-esque kind of situation, you can just play long lead lines with it and just kind of natter up and down. It's great, and just use it freehand. It's really great fun in that regard. Right now, everything is going into the SP404, and I've been using the looping facilities more than I have on the skip back, and so I've been using it as kind of like a Dawless live looper essentially, with the effects coming through. But I'm having issues getting everything in the same room, as in the reverbs are different, and it's kind of, you can tell. So I'm thinking about getting the
lo-fi on the SP and don't worry about it.
The
lo-fi setting fixes everything, man. No, it doesn't need to be traditional lo-fi. It's a lo-fi because it does crazy compression and just puts everything there. Or cassette sim if you're really adamantly against the term lo-fi in any form, which is just sad to put yourself in a box there. Try the cassette sim. Cassette sim just glues it. You throw the drive up, wow, and Flutter, and it just gets everything clicking. Cassette sim with compressor or 303 sim. The compressor on 303 sim is insane.
Well, I hear what you're saying. I think the fact of the matter is that Ableton is still my master, and Ableton is still. So while for example, I've got audio coming out the monologue and the Ultranova, they're also sending MIDI out, and I'm using MIDI VSTs in there as well. And so you've got like sounds being built up on the SP404, but then you've also got sounds being created through just being plugged in through my interface. So you've got 2 rooms essentially. So right now I'm looking at ways to kind of smooth that over and create that room. I also, in a similar fashion, similar kind of like break it down and still use it everywhere, kind of thinking about getting the Tascam 12. And so that you can plug that into Ableton, and that acts as a 10-channel USB interface. Yeah.
See, the thing I feel like it's losing is the charm of the SP, the effects, because anything you send into that thing just gets colored so nicely. Like in like Cresshead knows what's up. They say cassette sim is cool. Exactly.
It is. It's a very nice effect.
It's like SX reverb. Brings everything. Kodama is a nice stereo delay that ping pongs, that adds some resonance and stuff. Awesome. But what I'm getting at is what I like to do is have the whole Dawless setup go into it in one way or another. Like I'm cheating, but you could do this too. You could have the SP as your out with USB.
Well, that's what it is right now. That's what it is right now.
But you could have all the sounds going into your computer going into the SP, and have that be the actual sound processor. You just have to record the audio from that. That's what I'm doing. That's what I'm doing. So that's the way. That's
an interesting thought. That's something that I can have a look around in and experiment with, actually sending the audio out into the SP404.
I would love to see. Sorry, I just want to mention, I would love to see, and I say it on everything on my streams here, I would love to see a sort of overbridge function on the SP, because I know there's way more polyphony and there's way more pads, right? So that would be insane. But you have 4 buses or 5 with the input effects. because the input effect is a fifth bus. If you could just have the 5 buses be separate audio channels, separate stereo tracks, you could have a lot more granular control in a DAW from the SP. That would be awesome.
It is true, and I mean that's kind of where I'm still exploring, is that notion of separating out all the tracks and being able to go back and produce them later on, and also having them all running into one effect, i.e. the SP404. Right now, everything's running into the SP404, and it means that it gets baked in, which is fine. It's part of the Dawless experience, and that's something that I'm experimenting with. I do really enjoy production at the same time. Like, that's where I'm at with the album right now, and I'm heavily in producing and sound design and stuff like that, and I don't really want to give up that side of things at the same time. So I think while I navigate this, it's this notion of if I'm going to take Curtis out on the road this year, there'll be the loops and the jams that I'm building and stuff like that. What happens? Do they then go into, how do they then get put into Ableton and stuff like that? How do I make that more efficient, etc.?
Yeah. Yeah. One thing I will mention, if you're doing Dawless, for anyone, Dawless is compromise. That's what Dawless is. But you get awesome things like limitations that boost creativity, tactile function. But there's always something that's like, oh, it will be perfect if with Dawless. Like, there's no happy, perfect. And I like that about it. But if that's not your style, Curtis, then that might not be, it's like, that's the problem with Dawless, or the beauty of Dawless, is that it's always like figuring out, oh, what's the best way? But there's always some catch to it. Real quick, Cresshead says, NAMM 2025, new Roland SP. I will let you know. I'm going to be covering it. I hope not. I hope they keep updating the 404 Mark II, because I like long lives on hardware. Especially, there's still stuff that it could use, like the step sequencer stuff from the P6, sidechain. Per pad filters would be nice, like the P6, but I don't know if they'll want to cannibalize the market between the two. But I will let you know. Lars, you look like you had something you wanted to say, and then we'll wrap it up.
I was just kind of gonna remark on, like, with like music hardware. I've noticed, and this is a good thing in my opinion, like, most hardware companies don't want to just keep putting out new pieces of hardware all the time. They'll actually like take their time and like update hardware that exists as much as they can until like they hit the absolute limit. Unlike, these stupid things where you have to go buy a new one every year. That's
what's that forced what's the word?
Planned obsolescence.
Yeah, that's it. Planned obsolescence. Yeah.
It's very, very annoying. And I really appreciate, like, and even then with like hardware, it's like I'm buying like used hardware that was made in like the 80s and 90s and stuff, and it all still works like amazingly well. So I don't know. I like the fact that a lot of the manufacturers are still like trying to stay on that theme, where they're not going to just keep pushing a new piece of hardware. They're going to update the old one, and they're going to keep them moving as long as they can.
Yeah, I agree, and I think it's one of the few times it feels kind of consumer friendly, right? Because we can, like, you get this gear and you don't feel so forced to be like, I've got to get, this missing gap. I mean, they're always putting new stuff out, right? But at least if you vibe with a piece of gear, more than likely, a lot of these companies, you can use it long term. And what's great is they've been updating them. A lot of companies, like the Digitac 1, which I don't have the 2. This is the 1, was still getting updates until the Mark II came out, but it was 6 or 8 years of the Digitac 1. Oh, wow. And then the Octatrack, even though there is that Mark II, I mean, I don't know how much Octatrack version 1 still gets the support, but I don't think they're that different. But that thing's 16 years old, the Octatrack. It had a revision with the Mark II, but like I said, I think there's still some parity between it. But the original SP404 was out for a certain amount of years, but the SX was out for like 10 or 13 or something, So
wow.
I mean,
that's pretty impressive.
I like to see gear that is out for a while and gets updates. Like the 404's had multiple updates in the 3-4 years that it's been out. We're at 4.0 something, so there's been 4 major updates, or 3 post, and then little updates in between that add stuff. So I hope they keep updating it, especially seeing what they put in the P6. It'd be nice to get some other things added. I'd still love to see more effects thrown on the SP as well, because they've added a couple, so it'd be nice to see. I still want a big reverb. That's like the one thing missing. The SX reverb and Hadao get close, but they're not quite like super massive ambient reverbs. But really quick,
Maybe you just
When
need to
go
use
to
the
NAMM,
super
drop by the
massive.
Kilohearts and let me know what they're cooking. Are they going to be there? I'll definitely head over and see what they've got going on. What were you saying, Lars?
Oh, you were saying you need like a supermassive reverb. It sounds like you just need to use supermassive.
Well, if they
Remember that
had it
thing
as
that you
a,
guys
if
got
I would
memed?
love that as a hardware pedal, dude. Supermassive as a hardware pedal
I
would
mean, you
be
got the blue
insane.
sky.
I do, but
got the-
it's not the same. It's close. It's not the same.
It's not the same. Okay.
I do like
Right.
the blue sky, and I use it all the time. But I don't know. There's something about that supermassive that's got that thing, that it factor.
It does.
It does. In a similar vein, from Smile and Errors, over a winter period, I was playing around with Kilohertz.
There he goes again.
And
Winter period.
yeah,
Winter period.
winter period.
We're gonna get you to say Christmas break, man.
Christmas break. Yeah,
You will break.
And I was playing with the Kilohertz stuff, and you can get some really interesting, trippy, long tailing reverbs from that stuff if you're playing around with it.
Yeah.
Supermassive is good. I think this year, there's a ripe.
But is the Kilohertz one free?
Yes, it is. Yeah.
Oh, nice. Okay, cool. I'll have to check them out.
I think it's definitely worth. Other reverbs are available, and I think I love Supermassive just as much as the next guy. I think it's a great plugin. I'm determined not to put myself in another box.
Heresy.
Keep away.
This will not stand.
Hang on. So it's okay to it's heresy to step outside of the Valhalla Supermassive, but it's not heresy to not want to make lo-fi and boom bap on the SB404.
Yep.
Okay.
They're very different things, though. One is just, and I'm not saying no. See, this is why it's different. I'm not telling you to make lo-fi and boom bap. I'm telling you to try an effect that might share a name with a genre, but does some very awesome things that would open your eyes to something new, or your ears. That's the difference.
Right,
but I'm just kidding. Use whatever reverb you want. I'm gonna check out this Kilohertz if it's free. But
it's good fun.
I'm just saying, try these effects. Just because they have a name that's shared with the genre does not mean you're going to be all of a sudden doing some chill jazz hop or whatever.
I hear you.
I use it for ambient all the time because it just completely bit crushes and adds this lovely texture to the ambient drones.
I do need to explore on the effects panels. It's I'm at the very beginning of my SP404 journey, and we'll get there.
Yeah, and I am kidding. Use whatever reverb you want, but I do enjoy the freeness of Supermassive. So if Kilohertz, what's the one from Kilohertz called?
It's called their reverb.
It's called their reverb or reverb?
it's called Kilohertz reverb.
Okay, there we go. All right, I'm gonna write it down and I'm gonna check it out. Does it have the really long tail reverb, like the super long?
You can play around with it. And I think it's very much about the sound design on that. It's not one of those where you're going to click a preset and then it's just going to give it to you, because there aren't any. You got to play around with it. It's not as immediate, but it's very clean, and I've enjoyed exploring with it. And
does it have the warp feature where it like does some modulation? See, that's one of the things that I like about Supermassive. You can use like a tape thing to get the same effect. It's nice when the warp.
It's the immediacy of it. I get you.
Exactly. It's like, oh, I don't need another plugin. I almost said pedal, but I don't need another pedal or plugin to do the warping because it's right there to do a little bit and stuff. But I'll check it out. I'm always game to check out new things, especially when they're free.
Exactly.
Yeah,
I think they've got a load of them. Like, obviously, you pay for a lot of Kilohertz stuff. But they do. There's a bunch of them that you just download, and they're just all there instantly.
I'm gonna add
good fun.
Smiling Ears, is Kilohertz for sure going to be at NAMM? Do you know? Because I'll add them to the list. I'm emailing today all the companies that I'm going to try to talk with. So I will put them on that list. But if you know if they're going to be there for sure, let me know. I don't remember seeing them on the map that they sent, but I might not have been looking. So, oh, they have convolution reverbs too. That's cool. Nice.
They are good fun. Definitely worth exploring, I think.
Yeah.
I think that's all we've got for today.
Yeah.
All
right.
We'd
like
to
there.
We'd like to know if anyone watching back, Happy New Year. And if you have developed or are developing anything Dawless and going into the new year, we'd really like to hear about it. Our Discord is still going. It's still there. The link is in the description. It's a great place to hang out and talk about all this stuff after hours. So if you've got anything that you want to share, or you've got any ideas or any issues, because we do help each other out with issues every now and then, come on down. It's a great place to be.
Yeah, and if you have any questions about the routings, the setups we've talked about, or you're trying to figure out the setup you want to do, let us know in the chat or over in the Discord. Well, comments or over in the Discord after it ends, and we'll talk about it, because there's a lot of different ways to do it. We talked basically 3 ways. One easy, typical way with MIDI and stuff, and then another way, kind of the half of what the Dawless half that Curtis is doing, where you're just doing loops and like live performance. That's another way. And then there's the more convoluted hybrid type of setups that I've been doing. And you don't have to get as crazy as I am, but that definitely, there's lots of different ways to approach it. So let us know in the comments over on the Discord. And with that, Lars, you up to anything musically besides maybe doing some cassette recording?
Yes. So yeah, waiting on you.
No, I don't mean me. I don't mean on my end. I mean, just because you have to do it for is that what you're up to? I'll send that to you probably next week, because I still have a few tracks to finish.
Nice. No, as far as that, I am working on like a little EP that I want to put out. I don't know when it's going to be out, but probably in the near future. I don't know. I think that was just going to be a digital release though, because I have another one planned for later where I want to try and do another floppy disk release. So
oh, nice. Yeah.
Those are fun because I have to track down floppy disks, and like
it's like a whole thing.
Yeah, it's a little bit of effort to track them down. I'm not gonna lie.
I can imagine.
So much fun though.
Yeah, that's cool. All right, well, awesome. Curtis, what about you?
More of January, I think. I think that's what I'll be doing for a lot. Tinkering here, making sure this gets a little bit better, and exploring. And just keeping on going with it, really. What about yourself? Nice. Assuming everything stays well, what are you doing?
Yeah, if everything's all right, I got to film a review for the Polyend synth, and then I'm going to live stream with either the P6 or the SP sampling guitar. But I also, at the studio, I recorded some drums. I did one shots of the drum set, but I also did some loops, like playing it. And yeah, luckily Koala has a decent quantized time stretch, because I was able to fix a couple of them. It was fine, but I was like, I just want this one kick move, so I got it fixed. But yeah, so I'm gonna try and chop up the sample drum loop I did, and then also the one shots from that, and then hopefully that electronic kit gets here soon, so I can start messing with that.
Wait, electronic kit?
Yeah, I got a little electronic drum kit because I want to do more drums. I've been playing the drum set at work, and I'm like, okay, I could do it. I just need like practice and refinement and learn some things and stuff. But I really want to get some like live drum loops and stuff, either for sampling, but also just for the tracks. Because I always use the session drummers in Logic when I need to kind of expand a drum part, like in the chorus. I get like a session drummer, and I'm like, okay, do the ride, do this, and it gives it a little bit of a human sound to the like programmed ones that I'm doing. So I'm like, well, if I can just do it, I'll just do it. So yeah.
Okay. I mean, I would love to learn how to play drums, but apparently I am rhythmless.
It's the years of finger drumming on like the SP and Koala and stuff that it like, I know what I want to hear and play, but the coordination isn't there for going off. Like I can keep things consistent and keep, like a simple loop, but when I want to start adding the kicks at different times, or like, doing the fills and stuff, I'm like, oh man. So I'm like, okay, I think with practice and like watching tutorials and stuff, I can get there. So that's the goal.
You'll be a regular Phil Collins in no time.
I don't know, man, but it definitely means I'll be throwing some drum loops up on that fill. But I'll definitely throw some drum loops up once I have them. So
it'd be great. Looking forward to seeing where you go with that. That's gonna be a hell of a trip. That
it's fun. I'm like, ooh, it's a lot. It's nice to be really excited about an instrument that I don't really know much about, because like I've taken years of piano synthesis, sampling, guitars, like all that. So it's like this thing is just like, when I see it, I'm like, I gotta figure this out, right? So it's nice to have that kind of novelty again.
It's cool. Yeah, we'll have to see where you go. Well, thank you to everyone for tuning in for this. We'll be back next week where Sunwarper will be demoing the Polyend synth. And yeah, much to come. It's nice to be back. It's nice to have everyone here. Lars, thank you very much for tuning in and coming on. It's nice to see your face. It's been a minute. Over the Christmas.
And don't worry,
break,
he's got the dog in the
about you a
background
lot.
too, so we're good.
Okay, there we go. Yeah. Okay, now I'm pointing at the dog.
Okay.
All right.
There we go. So yeah. Yeah, that's all I got to say. Sunwarper.
Yeah. Well, we'll be back next week, so tune in. If you haven't subscribed, do so. We are getting up there. We passed our 500 goal in last year, so now we're shooting for 1,000, and then we just have to get our watch hours up. But yeah, we're going for 1,000 subscribers this year. So thanks for tuning in. If you haven't already subscribed, we do these every week, and we will see you next time. We got a new chat, so I'm just gonna share that real quick. Thanks, Smiling Airs. Great to see you. Hope everybody had a great end of the year. And I gotta find where this little outro video is because StreamYard keeps changing.
It's now in media assets.
Media assets, yeah.
I've got it
I do
here,
not
so.
like these changes they're doing. All right.
Wow.
Until next time, thanks for watching.